All right, hey guys, what's going on? This is going to be my mega Q&A video. So I posted a Q&A a couple months ago, just asking, for people to submit their questions, and then I submitted another one, like almost 2 weeks ago now, just for an updated one, because things have changed and things of that nature since then. I just kind of wanted to go along and answer a bunch of questions and kind of give my insight on things. As I know, I made another one of these like 2 years ago or something for Easter, and that was pretty fun, and it did pretty well. So I want to do another one because a lot has changed since then, right? So I just kind of wanted to jump right into it and just answer things to the best of my ability, give my insight on things, and yeah, let's get right into it. So first off, our first question is going to be, how do you find parking for LARPing on National Forest or WMA land? So this is a great question, especially when it comes to the winter, because a lot of times, depending on your vehicle, you're not going to really have anywhere to park. So basically, if there's no actual just parking set up, I will essentially just park on the side of the road. And now, obviously, a consideration to take, I don't have to deal with as much because I'm not really going to super like popular places which have like jam-packed parking. But yeah, I can definitely see that if you're going to like these bigger spots, you don't really want to like walk out of your car in like a big parking lot with all your shit on, because that's weird. But yeah, essentially I just kind of find a place on the side of the road if there isn't already parking. Also with this Q&A, I'm going to try to not talk a lot about a lot of things just because there is so many questions, but this is obviously going to be a pretty long video. So I'm going to do my best here. So, all right, so the next question is going to be, when's the next Appalachian Brutality thing? And by that question, I think you're kind of asking like, when's the next kind of FTX? As Appalachian Brutality, I'm not going to be attending another one of those events. But to kind of answer your question for the next FTX, I'm not really completely sure. Me and my guys kind of all have extended field experience, at least two of us, or I guess three of us, me included. So we already have a lot of experience like doing FTXs and having a lot of time in the field. So FTX wise, I'm not really sure. What I've been thinking about a lot lately is those GSG events. Those have been on my mind like nonstop. And if you're interested in stuff like that, go check out StatTax's channel. I really look up to those guys, and I've been watching those guys' content a lot. And that's what I'm going to try to shift my content more so towards, especially with everything that's happened. I really appreciate their content style. And so when the next one of those happens, for me, I'm not totally sure, but go check out StatTax. And in the future, I'll probably have one. It's just, we're kind of in the winter months right now, and in the winter months, there's just not a whole lot of training. Winter is kind of more so logistical usually. But I've also still tried to get out, train with my guys, and do stuff. That's where that deliberate ambush video comes from, is from me trying to get out there more so this winter. And it's a great time for me as well to test out utilizing vehicles, because these are kind of rougher conditions to be utilizing, working out of trucks and stuff. So it'll happen in the future. And there's also Midwest Contingency 2, which is not confirmed, but will probably happen at some point. But I'm really just more so focused on my own guys, if I'm being honest, our group, and I'm not really as concerned of my other friends around the country right now, to be completely honest. I obviously talk to them every day, and they're influential in my life, I'm influential in their lives, but I'm really more so dialed in with my own guys and what we're doing. So, TLDR, it'll happen. I don't know when. The next question is, opinion on new gen LARPers that actually are serious about what they're doing. So I'm kind of trying to move away from the term like LARPing and LARPer, just because it's kind of synonymous with this really like toxic, like chronically online weird shit. So I'm kind of moving more towards just, I don't want to say necessarily like normie prepping and training, but that's kind of what I'm kind of moving more towards, and I've actually found that's been a lot more fitting for me as of late. Beliefs wise, I still hang out with people who believe the same things, just not quite as chronically online and weird as fuck. So for new guys who are serious about what they're doing, I think it's great. I really hope to see more of that content coming out. I do think it helps when people post the stuff they do online, so it's not just like stuck within your own circle. And you can come on here and you can be like, hey, this is how I try to do it. Maybe it wasn't the best. Can you guys help me out in the comments? Stuff along those lines. And you don't got to leave those videos up either. You can have them up for a little while and then take them down. Obviously, your own OPSEC is your own OPSEC. But I think it's great that some people are actually starting to be serious about it. But there's also a lot of people, that aren't very serious about it, unfortunately. But those who are serious about it, that makes me happy. That makes me smile. Because ultimately, this is not about bullshit online. This is about actually becoming a lethal fighting machine, and knowing what you're doing and being smart. And actually going out there and getting that experience. Because without that experience, man, you're really not going to get, you're not going to get better. This is one of those things that you have to do like IRL, or you will not get better. Because you're not going to learn lessons unless you actually go out and do them. And I'll probably press on this kind of subject later, because I have a kind of real world example of that, where experience definitely outweighs any other stuff that you could learn online, and applying, more stuff. But yeah, I think it's great, man. I really hope to see more of it. Next question by the same dude says, what does someone who, if they simply cannot dig a hole to hide in from drones? That was worded a little poorly, but I live in an extremely rocky area where if I dig even a foot down, it's immediate rock. Another great question. With the drone threat, people sometimes don't think about it enough, and some people are overestimating it too much. But regardless, let's talk about worst case scenario here, right? Because we're gonna over prepare ourselves, right? What do you do? If you're in a rocky environment where you can't dig in, what are you gonna do? This is when looking toward other real world examples is important, right? This is not necessarily my niche, as you know, I don't live in a rocky area, but personally, what would probably be great to do is try to find buildings, right? And obviously those buildings can be destroyed, but buildings with basements, things along those lines. And if you're really talking about getting dug in, or you're really talking about like having a fortified position, then you might have to look towards using machinery or using like pickaxes, unfortunately. I'll talk more about that later. But again, I'm not in a rocky area, and a lot of the stuff that I learn is for my environment. Next question is, I'm just starting to move to the Big W from Chicago. Any good areas for LARPing? I was actually thinking about this question earlier today, and I actually really like this question because I have like a perfect answer for you. So like when you come up, find a reservation, and then just find anybody's like front yard and just start doing it there. Okay, because this will give you like a lot of real world experience of like the environment and everything along those lines. They're gonna like call the tribal police, and the tribal police are probably just gonna like kill you right on the spot. But that just like adds to the LARP, right? Like that just adds to the experience, and it's gonna be great. So just do that, all right? And that it will work out great for you. All right, let's move on to a question that doesn't violate my OPSEC. Next question is opinions on tunnel/underground fighting YPG style. Good question. CivDiv made a lot of videos about his time in the YPG and what they did, and a lot of it was digging, right? A lot of their operations was literally like being in these holes, digging these holes, taking wheelbarrows full of rocks and moving them out. That sucks. Don't get me wrong, but all of conflict sucks, and you're gonna probably be forced to do things. You are definitely going to be forced to do things that you don't want to do. My opinion on it is that it sucks, and that you got to worry about breathing in fucked up shit. You got to worry about a lot of stuff. Like this is a miserable environment to be in. When you say opinion though, what do you want me to say? Sometimes I get questions and they're very vague, and I don't know how to answer them. And we'll get to this point later on in the video where somebody asked me about infill, exfil. But like, what's your opinion is a very vague question. And in response, I can give you a very vague response. So, Jackal is the next question. And he asked, y'all are talking about trenches and defense in depth. What will your support/logistics look like? Excellent question, right? So like when we're moving away from, living out of caches and trapping and all this traditional like LARP, traditional LRP kind of old style LARP, right? We of course have to address the logistical problem, right? And it's never going to be a concrete solution. Just like everything else you do, it's never going to be a concrete solution. But my answer to this is not a concrete answer. It's kind of more of a question in itself, and that is what is going to happen to the millions of displaced Americans when everything goes to shit. You know what I mean? And when I say everything goes to shit, that also doesn't mean the entire country collapses at once. This is my problem with logistics, is that a lot of people have this like idea in their minds that you need to be completely self-sufficient in a way that is not realistic. Okay? Bugging out is dead. Okay? For the most part anyways, bugging out is pretty dead. Am I saying that using cash is a bad idea? No, absolutely not. But what I am saying is that you need long-term solutions. And not only do you need long-term solutions, the million other people who are still here also need those long-term solutions. Just because things start going bad does not mean that all of these people who are not going to fight don't also have to live. You know what I mean? Like, and yes, a lot of them are going to starve. A lot of them are going to get diseases. A lot of shit is going to happen. But these people are not just going to die. You know what I mean? Like, these people are not just going to, like, these people need to live too. These people need to be able to eat. They need to be able to sleep. And they need to be hygienic to some degree, especially women, because women actually, like, specifically need hygiene or they can get very sick. So my kind of answer is a question in itself. But my answer is more so, these other million people are surviving off a logistical chain that I'm sure we can also take part in a little bit as well. Is it going to be pretty? Absolutely not. None of this is going to be pretty by any means, and it might just be food and water, and that's it. Food, water, batteries, and ammo. That's probably all you're going to be carrying on you anyways, other than your other sustainment, but you know what I mean logistically wise. So my answer is that we're not the only ones who have to live. And those people need to live too. And those people need logistics to survive too. So we need to tap into their logistics a little bit. Because how is a million people just gonna survive without anything? You know what I mean? These are millions of people. Is there any, like, this is a genuine question, is there any in the 21st century or the late 20th century, is there any event where a nation fell and the majority of their population just immediately, like, died or dipped? That's a genuine question. We can talk about deliberate starvings like the Holodomor, right? But like just a country falling, right? Just a country going to shit, falling apart. Is there any? Because we're not the only ones here. You know what I mean? Like, the people who are fighting are not the only ones here. That doesn't mean it's going to be pretty for the other people either. Absolutely not. But I think it's a bit ridiculous to say hundreds of millions of Americans are just going to vanish, and that we just have to, and that the only way that we can logistically fight is the food, ammo, batteries, and water that we have in our back. I think that's a bit ridiculous. Die tile. He has, does it jiggle, bro? Elite ball knowledge for a second. Me and Die Tile send, like, the most, like, rancid, awful, like, terrible shit ever to each other every single day. And it's because I love him very much, and I think he loves me too. But yeah, he's a silly guy. Next question is by, I'm not even gonna say that. Next question is, this isn't a LARP question, but do you like manuals? AKA Palace Cats, bro. Goated. When I first, like, saw this question, I was, like, looking it up, and I was just looking at pictures of fucking Palace Cats, bro. I was, like, geeking hard as fuck. No, I love Palace Cats, man, or manuals, or however you fucking say it. I just call them Palace Cats, but dude, dude, you know me. I love my cats, man. I love my felines. But Garfield asked. Garfield's been, like, really cooking lately. I'm not gonna lie. He's been very smart. I appreciate him. But Garfield says, what new technology should LARPists focus on integrating into training? I've kind of gone over it lately, and that is kind of bringing in drones and thermal and radios. I know radios have always kind of been a thing, but those are kind of the main three like electronic technologies that I've been trying to press on more lately. Excuse me. And all of these provide a specific, all of these are force multipliers, which are really handy and provide a significant advantage, no matter how you spin it. So I think those three things are big ones. Next question is, with the slow integration of the FPV systems into LARP, will missions be conducted in a different manner / how will you train or act against an OPFOR with some kind of ISR range capability? ISR plus range capability. So when it comes to the drone problem, okay, the way that I'm going to solve the drone problem is the same way that they're going to solve the drone problem overseas right now, for the most part anyways. You really can't do a lot about it, unfortunately. That doesn't mean there's not anything you can do, and of course you can have the whole discussion about jammers, you can have the whole discussion about electronic warfare, you can have the whole discussion about fiber optic drones as well. I'm still trying to keep this realistic though. Missions will be conducted in a way that we already know that air superiority is compromised, essentially. That's how we're gonna do it. And this is why I have shilled so hard for defensive positions. This is why I've shilled for using vehicles. This is why I've shilled for, I guess, camo as well, but I've always kind of shilled for camo. Accepting that your air superiority is compromised is going to make you do things in a whole different way. And it's a big reason as to why I criticize patrol bases, right? So essentially that's how it's going to be, man. As to countering these things, I don't know. Every real world example that I've heard about FPVs at least has been like, yeah, maybe you can try to shoot it, but you're probably just going to be too late. The main thing that at least my buddy who's fighting over there right now tells me is that you pretty much have to hide, and if it spots you, you're kind of just fucked. Like if it's actually going to go for you, it's kind of just going to go for you. Now obviously that's his own example. Like we're thinking about this flexibility wise, right? But there's just really not a great way to deal with this problem yet. But to also say this, you can also say that drones are not an end all be all, because absolutely not. They're just like every other piece of technology. They fail, they have moving parts, they will not always work. And especially something like an FPV drone, which you have to be able to fly it. And flying it in itself is a skill, right? So just like any other force multiplier, it's important, it's not an end all be all, but it's something that we should be considering, and it's something that we should try to get well versed in, right? And the next question is, will LARPists practice or develop doctrine for anti-drone training or equipment? Will anti-drone equipment be used, signal, camera detectors, net launchers, etc.? To have doctrine about it is kind of what I already said before, where I was kind of already saying, if you are just training in a way where your air superiority is already compromised, that's kind of the doctrine in itself. Other than kind of a react to drone kind of drill, which is essentially what? Kind of just yelling out drone, trying to find cover and concealment, trying to get low, trying to not get hit, you know? But like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot you can do. But yes, I guess that would kind of be the doctrine, would be just assume already that you're being watched. Just assume already that there's something that could fly down and hit you. Just assume already that if you see a drone, well, not assume already, but if you see a drone, you have to call it out. You have to try to hide. You have to try to find cover. But again, drones are not end all be all. They can get caught in trees, all this shit. They can fail. They can malfunction. Blah, 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 blah. Not an end all be all. Never said it was. Never will say it is. Next question is, where do you find your LARP places? Do you have any tips on finding good spots if you live in a majority urban area? This is a question I get a lot, and I addressed it in one video, but I'll address it again. The way to find LARP spots is either you're going to talk to somebody you know, and you're going to find private land that you can shoot on, like one of your buddies who lives in the country or something, or a family member that lives in the country, or you are going to go and you are going to look on Google Maps, you're going to try to find public land. Depending on your state, it may not be legal to shoot on that public land, but there's also a lot more to training than shooting, right? And you can also take the risk yourself if you want to push that regulation. Next question is by Rocky Montesen. I hope I'm saying that right. What is the future of the LARP sphere you would like to see? I already said earlier that I'm done with the LARP sphere or whatever. I want to distance myself from it and make something new. I do feel like I've kind of gotten too caught up in this like nonsense that I'm not really bettering myself the way that I should be anymore. And it is very like chronically online and like lame as fuck. So what I want to see from it is that I don't want to see anything from it, honestly, because it doesn't really matter anymore to me. But in the same thought, I also want to say something real quick. With me leaving the LARP sphere, I just want to say how excited I am to see what it becomes. I just want to say how thrilled I am to see who takes over, you know what I mean? Because like people had a lot to say about how I was doing things, you know what I mean? People had a lot of opinions. I read a lot of comments, you know, hating on me and everything. So I just want to say how excited I am to see what happens, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure that these people are going to take over now, right? Like these people who had all this stuff to say, I'm sure that they're going to start making content now. And I'm really excited to see the content that they make, you know? For some reason, they don't already like make any content about training or like doing stuff, and I never really see them do much, you know? Like, I kind of look at their profiles and there's not like a whole lot on it, and I never really see them training, even though they have a lot to say about how I train, you know what I mean? But like, I am so sure, you know, I'm so happy, I'm so excited. Dude, I am so excited to see what they make. You know what I mean? Because obviously I just wasn't adequate. You know what I mean? Like there's something obviously wrong with me. I was obviously doing something wrong. So I'm just so excited to see how they can show me how to do it right. You know what I mean? Because they're just gonna knock it right out of the park. I'm sure of it. You know what I mean? Like obviously something wrong with me. You know, 6 years of LARPing, 5 years of infantry experience. It's not enough. Okay, these people know what they're doing. You know what I mean? These people got it down. They got it down on tap. You know, why would they be saying all this stuff if they didn't know how to do it right? Like, I know, you know, sometimes you can like get them in a Discord call and then they don't even know what SILS means, which is kind of weird because like obviously they know so much. But I'm sure that once they take over the LARP sphere, once they reclaim LARP, it's just going to be this like bastion of like hope. You know, it's just going to be so good. Them and all the freaks in their Discord servers are just going to like start making all this great content. And it's just going to be great, man. I'm just like really excited to see what becomes of it. I got to take a step back. Obviously, I just wasn't good enough, you know, like there was just something wrong with me, you know, so I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to let them take over, and I'm sure they're just going to knock it right out of the park, you know what I mean? Knock it right out of the park, you know what I mean? So I can't wait to see what they make, man. I am like, you know, I do wonder why they don't already make stuff, you know what I mean? You know, but I'm sure they're just gonna. So, yeah, man. On to the next part. How to establish and maintain standards, fitness, training, schedule, gear, and chain of command within a group. Good question. I'm gonna take a step back here. I'm gonna ask you to take a step back here for a second, and I'm gonna ask you something right now. Do you think micromanaging is a good idea? Do you think good leaders micromanage? Okay. Now, do you think it's a good idea to try to micromanage people who train on their own time? What I'm trying to get at here is that when you try to control people, it usually doesn't work. You know, that's why we have jobs. You know, this is why there's a structure system within the jobs we have. This is why there's a structure system in the military, because you have to adhere to these kind of things. Otherwise, you're going to lose your job, or you're going to get UCMJ or Article 15 or whatever. The thing I see LARPers fuck up a lot when it comes to this kind of stuff is that they try to get too micromanagey. They try to control people's lives. I was involved in this group where they wanted me to go to an OPSEC brief every week, and they wanted me to send my workout results to somebody else every 2 weeks. And I wasn't gonna fucking do that, okay? Because you know why? Because I'm a grown man who has other shit to do. And it doesn't matter. These things don't matter. Okay, what you need to think about as a civilian, a prepared civilian, is don't get caught up in all this micromanaging shit. Okay, should you have your fitness squared away? Yes. Should you have a training schedule? Sure. Should you have your gear squared away? Yes. Okay? But you need to realize that people are either going to do it or they're not going to do it. Okay? This is a thing that, like, civilians, when they train, and even I guess vets do as well, is they try to, like, take, like, somebody from high school, like some fucking normie from high school, and be like, hey man, let's train. We're gonna be training buddies. And their buddy doesn't give a fuck, like, almost at all. Or he gives a fuck, like, only once in a while, and it's just like mag dumping into trash. You can't force people to do things that they don't want to do. Okay, you're either about this shit or you're not. That's pretty much my rule. It's like, hey, if you don't want to come out and do the stuff that we're doing, that's totally fine. I don't care. It's not my life, it's your life. I'm not going to force you to do something you don't want to do. And I'm sure as shit not going to, like, try to make a group and then be like, hey guys, how's your fitness doing? Hey guys, you know, you need to be wearing this exact stuff. Hey guys, other than, like, shit like your IFAC, you know, things that are, like, definitely you need to have squared away. Hey guys, we need to have this training schedule, and if you're not there, it's a big problem. And dude, you just need to back the fuck up, okay? If people want to do this stuff, they're going to do it, okay? And does it kind of sound a little shitty? Does it kind of sound a little, like, pussified? Yeah, it does. But this is unfortunately the reality that we're living in. People will not do fucking anything unless they want to do it. You know? That's why there is a whole group of people online who do nothing but bitch on YouTube videos about the stuff that we do. It's because they don't really want to do it. Because if they did do it, they wouldn't be bitching about it. So as for trying to establish standards and have a chain of command, dude, just realize that people are going to do what they want to do. Okay? Obviously, do not let a fat idiot who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing and doesn't give a fuck about anything in your group. Obviously, don't do that. But you have to watch people's motivation. You have to watch how much they're really about it. Again, about it. You have to be about it. And if they're about it, they're going to get there. They might not get there 100%. They might not get there in the way that you want it, but they'll get there. So don't try this micromanagey fucking trying to be like some fucking staff sergeant type of bullshit with civilians, because it doesn't work. And it's stupid. It's going to do nothing but make you look like a toxic asshole friend. And the last question is, are you doing good, bro? One of the live streams you mentioned you had some life shit happen. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. I'm doing better, man. Turn of the year has been better. Things have been getting better. I'm not gonna lie. I just got fucked up in 2025. I'm not gonna lie. I got my ass whooped the whole year. There was a couple things. First one is I got involved with somebody I probably shouldn't have got involved with, and that's not an OPSEC thing. Of course, it's about a girl, right? But yeah, mistakes were made, and I should not have trusted her. But whatever, who fucking cares? But it was like horrific. Next thing was I almost lost my eye. My right eye I almost lost, which was really bad. And I didn't even get closure about that until like a couple months ago. Not even a couple months ago, it was like last month, dude. So that was like equally horrific, if not more horrific. So yeah, that was pretty traumatizing. And then the last thing was that just all of 2025, I was on my grand adventure, whatever, and gone, and that whole thing was just like a total shit show, man. And you guys will hear about it in the future, but not now. But it was just like such a fucking shit fest. And it like really broke me down. But whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. Life goes on. But thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Next question is, should LARPers focus more on urban or rural drills, not depending on area nearby? This is a good question, right? The thing is about training urban is that training urban is hard as a civilian, right? Like you either need to, like it's just really difficult. I've never really tried to go train urban. Well, I guess that's not true. But I've never tried to train urban as a team, as a civilian. You know, it's extremely difficult. What you can do is call it like a glass house though. That's basically just basic CQB. And I actually saw this really cool video the other day. This guy took tarps and he taped them to like trees. And then he cut holes in them to make windows. And then he was like going around like shooting through them. That was like fucking dope, dude. That was so cool. So I think you should probably train rural, I guess, more so just because it's more available. You know, urban is important, but you got to think about modern urban combat. What is modern urban combat? It's a lot about shooting from rooftop to rooftop or from window to window. And then when you're not doing that, you're either trying to avoid artillery or drones, or you're literally just sitting in rocks a lot of time and sitting in rubble and shit like that. So I think if you can train like MOUT, M-O-U-T, that would be a great opportunity. If there's any kind of paid courses where you are, that'd be a great thing. But training urban is extremely difficult as a civilian just because you're really not given many opportunities. Next question, are you going to talk about the fact that any scenario that plays out will likely never escalate beyond years of lead-style gang violence? By the way, in all likelihood, 99% of people who LARP and train will never see any action. I understand the aspect of preparedness, but I think you overestimate the modern person's capacity for violence, especially in America. Brother, I know, okay? I'm aware, okay? I know, okay? People tend to think that now that I'm talking about armor and I'm talking about using force multipliers like drones and thermal, that I just believe that whatever happens is 100% going to be like total war, insanity, Red Dawn. People are just going to be going fucking crazy. It's just let's slow down a little bit, okay? I am over preparing myself, okay? And not only am I over preparing myself, I'm preparing myself for my situation, guys. I live in the Midwest, okay? I'm not going to be fighting in the mountains. You know, so obviously I'm not going to be talking about like that kind of stuff. But let's just address the first comment. Any scenario that plays out will likely never escalate beyond years of lead-style gang violence. You are right, okay? That could very well be it, okay? And what's going on in Mexico, literally as I'm recording this video, is literally that. But let's also look at Mexico for a second, right? And here comes it, people like, oh, well, cartel violence is not the same. I'm aware, okay? I'm fully fucking aware. But let's look at Mexico, just to our southern border, right? How are these guys fighting? Other than like literally, you know, the Mexican National Guard using helicopters with miniguns to like mow people down, right? how is the kind of cartel fighting? They are using force multipliers that they can get their hands on, right? They're welding sheet metal to trucks. You know, they're using 50 calibers, which is something obviously American civilians can acquire. Not necessarily fully auto, but you know, fucking anti-material rifles. I haven't seen them really use thermal that much. I'm really not following that whole kind of spiel a whole lot, but obviously thermal would give them some advantages as well, right? Especially when they're kind of, you know, shooting back and forth longer distances, like some of the valleys and stuff like that. And drones. There's literally an article that just came out recently about talking about how some Mexicans have like literal experience in Ukraine using FPVs. So drones are obviously being implemented there as well. Point being, force multipliers are force multipliers, and they significantly help in combat, and they significantly help your case, right? So if you can have them and use them and utilize them, that is going to be very important, right? Am I saying rely on them? Absolutely not. Okay, you should be able to train and do everything you do without them, okay? And I think this is where people start getting a little confused when I moved away from LRP and basic kind of LARP and you know, that kind of basic training level stuff. People think that now that I'm training this way, that I'm not prepared at all for that other way, or that you shouldn't practice these other things at all. I've never once said, or if I have, I apologize. I've never once said that you absolutely can never train patrol bases. I've never said that like having caches, trapping, you know, using these kind of more older school art methods are completely out of date and that you will never ever use them and that you should never train them. A lot of this stuff is good training. Okay, don't get me wrong. To train patrol bases is good. It does give you some kind of knowledge about how being in a fortified, even if it's just having, you know, different people in different positions pulling security, it still gives you some kind of idea as to what a more fortified position defending would look like, right? It's good training, but what I'm saying is I want to train better training. Okay, that's good, sure, whatever, but you know what's better? Having more force multipliers, having more logistics, having armor, having aircraft superiority when it comes to drones, right? Aircraft superiority is a vague term. I'm using it widely, right? That's why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. You can train all the stuff that you're still training. Go ahead. I really don't care. I really don't care. I am just specifically training for my environment and what I might have to do in my worst case scenario. Okay? And a lot of people seem to be like, oh, Myer, you're training for total war, and total war is going to be imminent, and that's the only thing that's ever going to happen. I want to say something real quick and just be like totally dead ass, totally straightforward. Civilians have a problem where they want a definite solution to everything. Okay? And this is also not me like stroking my military side because like who fucking cares? But like something I see a lot of civilians do is they need it. They need a exact scenario and an exact kit to carry that out, and they need exactly what to predict that's going to happen. And that's just not how it works. Okay? I am flexible, essentially. The things that I do are all flexible. Okay? The kit that I have is all flexible. Okay? If I don't have to run armor, I can take my fucking plates out. You can run a plate carrier without plates. Is it weird? Yeah, but it works. Point being, you have to stay flexible, and that's why I train in the way that I do. And that's why I'm still not telling you, don't train these other things. Never train these other things. You should never ever train these other things. I just think that there's things more important to train, personally. Especially for my environment and what I'm doing. So yeah, it could be years of lead-style gang violence. It could be a very slow balkanization. It could be like only parts of the Midwest split up and the rest of the country stays the same. All these things could happen. All these different things could happen, you know? But you need to stay prepared, and you need to stop thinking that you're going to be able to predict whatever happens, is basically what I'm going at. By the way, and the next part is, by the way, in all likelihood, 99% of people who LARP and train will never see any action. Yeah, it's an even higher percentage for the military. It's probably, or maybe not even higher, but it's about the same for the military as well. Yeah, a lot of us spend our lives training for something that may never happen. But do I feel like it's wasted? No, I don't. I feel like what I did was important. I feel like what I did was meaningful and it meant something. You know, even if nothing ever happens, even if I never put my skills to use, you know, I made something of myself, you know. I did something with my life. I was a badass. I shot machine guns, I flew in helicopters, I watched shit blow up. And on the civilian side, I did crazy stuff. I met interesting people. You know, I went places, I made friends. You know, I did cool stuff. I feel good about myself because of it. So yeah, I may never do anything, and probably I would rather probably never do anything to begin with. Like, I never want to take a life. That doesn't sound very good. You know, I don't really want to have to stand in front of God and be like, hey, I took this life, you know. Next part is, I understand the aspect of preparedness, but I think you overestimate the modern person's capability for violence, especially in America. And that's kind of what I was going about earlier, where it's like, yeah, it could be completely nothing, in all honesty, you know. But I'm gonna over prepare myself, and don't worry. I am well aware that the average American existence is to work their slave job and then go home and fucking watch Netflix and drink a beer and jerk off and go to bed. I'm well aware that almost everybody around me is complete cattle, and that most people are just complete cattle. I'm well aware, which is why an event like Shit Hit the Fan would only really ever happen once our creature comforts are all taken away from us. I'm just being real. But I'm gonna move on to the next comment now. Do our Myers fly? Dude, you already fucking know it, of course. Also, I fuck heavy with this guy's profile picture. The Kita. Dude, Kita's the GOAT. Kita, whatever. She's the GOAT, man. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Nijika kind of guy. No bullshit. And Bocher's also pretty dope, but Kita's definitely up there. She's like, she's so based, man. Like, the way that she held Bocher, bro, that shit's so sick. I'm a mama! But yeah. Sissy Fish asked, everyone talks about small unit attack. This is the comment I was talking about earlier. Everyone talks about small unit attacks, but no one talks about infill, exfil. I don't know if you want to talk about this. This is my problem when it comes to like people kind of asking questions too vague. And he actually asked this question on my deliberate ambush on a truck video. And then I was able to give him a better response. And I'm going to try to remember everything I told him in that comment. If not, you can just go look at the comment on the video. It's still there. But what do you mean no one talks about infill, exfil? I don't know what you want to talk about. You got to be more specific about your question. What do you want to know about infill, exfil? Do you want to know the considerations? Do you want to know the real world practicality? Do you want to know the real world examples of it? Like what are we talking about here? But basically, what I told him in the other comment is that before you infill, you and your team should try to sit down, and you should you should plan out your route, right? And you should probably have an alternative route as well. And you should go on a map, more specifically a satellite map, and try to look at the route. Now, with a satellite map, and Civ did press on this as well, is that especially if there's been fighting in the area, there's going to be a problem. There might be this problem where it looks completely different. And honestly, even without fighting, it could just look completely different. But you should try to be familiar with your infill before you even infill. When you infill, I would highly recommend you use some kind of four-wheel drive vehicle. That's why I'm using that truck, you know, because that truck can handle shit. You know, that trail that we were going on, not the best trail in the world, I'm not gonna lie, especially with all that slush on it, and especially after we drove back and forth on it a bunch of times, dude. Yeah, it was like, I'm really glad I had, you know, four-wheel on that truck. Once you pick out your vehicle, infilling and exfilling, as I've talked about in the patrol bases video, is currently the most dangerous time for infantry, right? For infantry, again, keep these things in mind. These are not definites, right? These are not definitive, but these are things to keep in mind. During this infill, speed is security, okay? Speed is security, okay? You can try to have 360 security out of the truck. This is going to be easier with having a bed in the back, especially if you have somebody in the back who can kind of be like an anti-drone guy with birdshot. But a lot of times this is probably not going to be the case. But yes, speed is security. Assume that you're being watched because of the drone threat. Assume that you're being watched from the air at least. And in the considerations you have to worry about before infill is you got to worry about not only ambushes like the one in that video that I made, but you also got to worry about mines in a conventional conflict, which is why a lot of guys on foot end up going into files. You know what I mean? Because they know a clear route. But this is not about being on foot. This is about being in a vehicle. But you have to worry about, booby traps, and also obstructions in the road, whether natural or intentional, so they get you to stop your vehicle and then they ambush you. This is also something you're going to have to consider. And this is also, again, why four-wheel drive is important, so you can get around those obstructions, or at least attempt to maybe go around those obstructions. There's no clean way of really being able to do this. If you're fucked, you're kind of fucked. This is how it is. Once you get to the infill point, and I think he asked, like, in that comment, if there's like some kind of doctrine as to like actually like getting out of the vehicle or something. There's really not, dude. You need to get the fuck out. You need to hit the wood line. You need to hit the building near you. You need to find cover or in concealment. If you're gonna find a building, get in that fucking building. If it has overhead cover. If not, hit the wood line and spread out. Try to get underneath trees, stuff along those lines. And when you infill, dude, you have to make sure your gear is not going to get fucked up. Okay, there's this StatTac video. It's probably like a year old now, and they had like an abysmal fucking infill in it. Like, it was really bad. It was the one where they're raining and then they yell at drone, and then he's trying to get out of the truck, and then his fucking like assault pack gets like caught on something, and he's trying to get his ruck on, and then he's like carrying the assault pack, or he has it like front loaded, and then he's moved. Dude, it was just really bad. You need to make sure your kit is not going to get fucking snagged and stuck and fucked all over shit. That is something you got to consider. You're not always going to be able to prevent that, but try, for the love of God, to keep your shit together, especially if you have a ruck and an assault pack. Please, for the love of God, strap your assault pack down underneath the top flap of your ruck. Don't try to be grabbing multiple fucking bags and all this fucking shit when you're trying to get out of this vehicle, because you are in a very dangerous spot right now. Very dangerous. So that's infill, right? I think I pressed on just about everything. You could probably go more in depth about some things, but that's essentially infill. Exfil, again, speed is security. You need to get in that truck and you need to get the fuck out of there. And then sometimes that might mean that somebody's hanging out the door or something when you're trying to fucking exfil. It doesn't matter that much as long as you're in the vehicle and you're not definitely going to fall out of that fucking vehicle. You need to get the fuck out of there. Speed is security, people. And for short halts, essentially stopping the vehicle for whatever reason and not exfilling from that vehicle or infilling from that vehicle, try to have that 360 security. But again, short halts I would not recommend doing, or trying to keep yourself from doing as much as possible, just because a vehicle is a significant. It makes you easier to target. So yeah, that's my quick rundown of infill exfil. I think that's everything, just about. But yeah, 4-wheel drive vehicle, either truck or SUV. Probably recommend a truck more. A truck with a bed is going to be ideal. If you're trying to shoot out of the back of it at any kind of like drone flying at you or something, which is not always going to be successful, but that's just kind of how it is. Next question is, what and where is the best place /group /community to do an FTX and such? Genuine question. Thanks for reading, smiley face. I love it when people like leave smiley faces and like little shit in there, because it like actually like warms my heart. It's pretty cool. But I already kind of answered the thing of how to find places. Private land's going to be ideal, but if not, you got to use public land. As for finding a group or community, social media is the only way, man. Again, I wouldn't, dude, I'm going to take my high school best friend who does nothing but drink and play video games all day. I'm going to make him into a warrior. Like, let's be real here. Find people online. Instagram and YouTube are the best places to find people, in my opinion. Especially people locally, because especially on Instagram, people are a lot more open about kind of what area of the United States they're kind of in. But yeah, and then talk to them, feel them out. I wouldn't necessarily say, everybody's a Fed, everybody's coming for you. Because a lot of people like schizo out about that in the beginning. But it's usually not that deep. Just don't be fucking stupid about it. And if somebody's like posting about like, I'm gonna violence, like don't talk to those fucking people because they're stupid. But yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to avoid those kind of weirdos. But you gotta use social media, man. It's the only way you're gonna find people. Next question: do you think there are some circumstances where it makes sense for an individual to focus more on evasion, long-term sustainment, and trying to simply survive rather than preparing to dig in. Example, if you are an individual, you as an individual live in or have the ability to flee extremely vast, remote, and uninhabited wilderness where it would be unlikely to encounter others. I think you're kind of talking about like SEER kind of stuff here, and like, again, I'm never going to say that this is bad training. It wouldn't really be a priority for me. And I say this because let's think about why escape and evasion and SEER is the way it is, right? Like why this is a training that there is. And who really gets this training? People who get this training are usually like high value to some degree. We're talking about pilots. We're talking about higher ranks in the military, people who do specific kind of classified stuff. These are the kind of people going through this training, and it's because they have to worry about an actual conventional threat. Excuse me. Like China or Russia, being behind enemy lines, stuff along those lines. That's why SEER is so important to these people. Am I going to say that it's not important for civilians? Absolutely not. If you want to practice this kind of stuff, if you want to know bushcraft, if you want to be able to survive off the land, all the more power to you, dude. Definitely important stuff. I just think that there's stuff that's more important, personally. But yeah, dude, and for ability to flee extremely vast, remote, uninhabited wilderness, how much of that is really left in the U.S. outside of Alaska? A lot of this wilderness that you may think is uninhabited has some kind of habitation in it. Maybe not necessarily once things go to shit, but a lot of places, like woodsy places, have some kind of home within like 10 miles, if not closer. Have some kind of building that's inhabited within that radius. So maybe you live in an area that's not that way. Don't get me wrong. And again, I think the part of this question is like, rather than preparing to dig in, I think this is another example of people thinking that I'm saying you absolutely cannot train any other way than digging in and conventional no. You can train in these ways. I just think that there's better ways to train. I think there's more practical ways of doing things that are going to be more important for actually fighting and winning, rather than a lot of people who have this like bug out mindset that they're just gonna like run away and that's somehow gonna get something done. I used to have that mindset, but ultimately I don't see the point of it anymore. You want to win, right? Like, is this not about winning? If this isn't about winning, then yeah, obviously what I say probably doesn't apply to you very much, but I'm here to win. You know what I mean? I'm here to win. Next question is by Tier 1 Abby. Address the mass number of Euros training for literally no reason. It's a bit condescending, but I'll address Euros training. My thing is that, like, as a man, I think you should try to be well versed when it comes to fighting for conflict, because like human nature is just like absolutely fucking barbaric, and we kind of just live in an anomaly that can disappear at any moment. But my thing about Euros is that I just don't think their countries collapsing outside of like the Balkans, like I'm talking about like Western Europe, I don't think their country collapsing is really realistic for a lot of them. And I think if a lot of them would just visit America, or if a lot of Americans just visit Europe, they'll know what I'm talking about. Dude, mind you, I only went to Western and Central Europe when I went to, but dude, that's a society worth living in. Okay, those are, I went to 4 countries, okay? I went to Austria, Germany, Czech, and Slovakia. Those were the countries I went to. All of those countries have societies that are a lot better worth living in than like here. I'm not gonna lie. We're very depraved as a nation in America, okay? We are, okay? When I was in Europe, I was there for I think like 10 days. I counted 1 obese person the entire time I was there. 1. I can't even go outside without seeing a fat person or an old person within like 5 minutes. Dude, like it's like so different. Like their society is so different. You know what I mean? Like the whole it's just people are young and they're healthy. And it's just like it's so different, man. The Euros really don't get it, man. Like the American populace is like disgusting. Like it really is. It really is disgusting. Everybody's fucking old. Everybody's out of shape. Nobody wants to do anything. Everybody just fucking drives around their cars and obsesses over sports ball, numbs their mind with drugs and alcohol. And there's really not worth living here for. You know what I mean? That's why my generation is like going fucking crazy. You know, this is why my generation is doing what they're doing, is because this is not really a country worth living in anymore. Europe is a totally different case. You can wake up and you can go on the metro, which is clean and works, and be surrounded by young people who are healthy. You can go to your job and then you can come home and you can eat actual food that doesn't cost that much. And you have a nation worth living in. That's not how America is. We are dying. We are fucked. We are super fucked. Okay? And even we're not really rebelling. Now let's look at Europeans. Europeans are like, don't get me wrong, they're still castrated. They're very anti-gun. And not only are they anti-gun, but they don't have a history of rebellion. You know, like even as like fucking domesticated as Americans are, at least we have that history of rebellion. You know what I mean? And this is Myer talking about philosophy, finally, but like you don't get it, man. Like it's not the same. It's not the same society. It's not the same people. So when I see Euros prepping, your continent has a history of fighting each other. You know? And any threat it's imminent right now, which is pretty much just Russia, and of course, like, obviously there's the internal threat, but you can't really do anything about that. But I feel like a lot of Euros who actually want to fight only have one fight they can actually go to, and that's in Ukraine. That's just my opinion. Don't get me wrong. That's just my American opinion. Okay? And this is just my experience from me being in Europe for 10 days and going to these 4 countries and the things that I think. It could be totally different. There could be sects throughout Europe that I don't know about that are legitimately on the urge of armed uprising. Personally, I just don't know about that, though. Maybe I'm just not educated enough about that. All I see is 2 completely separate cultures and societies. One about to literally die, and one that still has kind of a life. Next question is LARPing with airsoft okay if you are not old enough to own firearms? Of course, man. Rhode Island Aboriginal used airsoft for a long time, and then he got an actual rifle, and then he just like disappeared. So I don't know what that was all about. But no, yeah, you can do that, man. And again, a lot of training, it has nothing to do with shooting. Like you can get so much done and learn just so much stuff by not shooting. You know. Now, does shooting look cool? Yeah. Is shooting fun? Yeah. But there's a lot of training that you can get done without firing a single shot or even having a rifle, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, you can do it, man. It's not going to be the same. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it's going to be the same because it's not. But yeah, man, do what you can. Do what you can. Next question is by Apac's Worst Enemy. And his question is, how does it feel to be a bigger than Chad? All right, buddy. All right, pal. It's enough of you. Don't make me turn into a King Von flyer. Dude, that image is so fucking funny. That is so fucking funny. I feel bad for people who don't understand the reference about the fucking King Von with the my helmet on. Dude, that shit is so fucking funny. Oh my gosh. That shit is so funny. Next question is, how are you running your ruck with your current kit setup? I recently got a war belt and have it set up similar to your 1.0 setup. It's taken some getting used to with my ruck. Was looking for any tips or tricks you might have. So here's another case where you should be looking at some kind of example as to how people do it IRL, right? When the Marine Corps, at least from what I've heard, when the Marine Corps is doing rucks with armor, guys take their plates out. Am I necessarily saying to do that? But I'm when they're doing ruck marches, right? They are they are traveling extended periods of time. They are actually taking their plates out and then they're putting them in their bags. I'm not necessarily telling you to do that, but that's an idea I can float by you. The main benefit of running armor and going off of this new kind of, for lack of better words, doctrine, is that we don't have to live with our rucks on anymore. Okay, and I want to bring up an example real quick. So Tier Wannabe and Mr. Greaves, two of my friends, they go to this GSG event, right? And they set up a patrol base, and then they step off their patrol base, and like immediately their patrol base gets notionally destroyed. They lose all their sustainment. Literally all of it. And then it's only a day event, but they're like, yeah, I don't have any more water or food. And Mr. Greaves left his fucking nods in his ruck. And I was just like, bro, what? None of you guys had an assault pack? Like, not a single one of you guys had an assault pack. That blows my mind. So, I know this is a little off topic, but there should be a kind of system when you're not even just with armor, but when you're training entirely. There should be some kind of system where you can have different amounts of sustainment on you depending on what you're doing, right? When we're running armor, we're more direct contact, kind of patrolling oriented. I don't really like using the word patrolling, but whatever. When you are simply doing like a movement to contact or something, you do not need your ruck. Okay, this is a point where you should have dropped your ruck off at a position in a truck somewhere. Okay, and from that you should have brought some sustainment with you as well, either in the form of putting it in your butt pack or putting it in an assault pack. Okay, this is why Mr. Greaves went without his nods, because he kept it in his fucking assault pack. Guys, put your nods on your second line. Please, for the love of God, if you have night vision, put it on your belt or put it on your fucking plate carrier. Please. These are things that you should not be separated from. This is why you need these different levels of sustainment, right? Some people use a butt pack for this, right? Once they drop ruck and then they go to do their movement or whatever, they go to patrol or movement to contact or whatever they're doing. This is the advantage of having an assault pack and a ruck. What I have is I have an assault pack that straps to the very top of my ruck. It buckles in. So when I drop ruck, I just unclip it and I throw my assault pack on. Now, another way that you could do this, although I don't recommend it, is you can have a butt pack on your belt. This is kind of going back to, and this kind of is still kind of like the old LRP stuff. Don't get me wrong. I totally see the correlation there. I personally don't like this because then you have to take your entire belt off and then go into your butt pack. And especially if you're running a belt like I'm running it, like underneath my plate carrier, that's not going to work. So what I think you should do is I think you should have an assault pack that you put on top of your ruck. And this is not a new concept either. The FLIBE, the Marine Corps like ruck, literally is made for this. And you can literally see pictures of Marines doing this. The Molly 2 is the same way, but almost nobody does it because it looks like shit. But that's kind of what I'm shilling for here. As for getting used to rucking with armor, you're never going to get used to it. It just fucking sucks. I'm sorry. It just fucking sucks. But this is why you should be training in a way that you're not really rucking much with armor. Usually you would just take your ruck to a position or leave it in a vehicle and you just take your assault pack. Obviously, there's times that you can't get around this. But in that case, have one guy in your team have the ruck and the rest of you not have ruck. Because, dude, fighting with a ruck on is like the fucking worst. Okay? Like, it's the worst. I know that this whole, you're gonna fall down, you're gonna rip it off immediately and blah, but in all reality, that's probably not gonna happen quite as smooth as it looks sometimes. So you should try to avoid wearing the ruck. And if you're rucking and you take contact, it's just gonna be shitty. I'm sorry. This is why we're trying to avoid doing that. That's why we're trying to have deliberate positions and vehicles and things along those lines, so we don't have to carry all that sustainment. And in return, we can then use our armor to, make us more lethal. This is about lethality at the end of the day. If you're all about sustainment, if you're all about survivalism, that's different. But when I'm talking about winning, I'm talking about combat. When I'm talking about combat, armor is important because armor will save your life. It's not gonna for sure save your life. Like, obviously, if you get shot and it doesn't hit your armor, you're gonna die. But you should try to take that precaution of having armor. That's why you run armor. Again, like a hard hat, right? Like a hard hat. Like I said in that one video, like a hard hat. You should be wearing your hard hat on the job set, right? Because you're doing a job. People are gonna take that broadly. And they're gonna be like, oh, dude, my fly said you always wear armor, always. Next comment. In an actual scenario where there is some sort of government collapse or enemy occupation or something, you wouldn't just hide away in the woods, right? Or am I wrong? Like, what would the living situation be? I'm just curious. He said it, not me. He said it, not me. Exactly. What is the point of just running away? Early stage, to try to survive everything going to shit, yeah, in the initial phases where people are like getting killed in the streets and all this stuff, yeah, you can run away and try to keep yourself alive until you can meet up with people, right, that you can trust. But you're right. Long term, what is the point of running away? And what would this living situation be like? It's gonna be ass, bro. It's gonna suck, especially people who shill for like, oh dude, I'm just gonna live in the woods. People who say that shit have never actually lived in the fucking woods. People who say that shit have never actually like lived in the woods, like had extended field ops. Cause that shit sucks, dude. Like that shit is ass. Especially in the way that they're talking about it. Like, oh, I'm just gonna live out on my rock. Your ruck is either gonna be like super fucking heavy. Well, your ruck is definitely gonna be super fucking heavy. And you're gonna be miserable as fuck. And like, exactly, what is the point? What is the point of just living in the woods while your country is destroyed and you're doing nothing to fight alongside the people who need you. What's the point of that? I don't know. I don't know if any of these questions have been previously asked. Is belt kit LARP dead? And do you think everyone should start looking into running 18 to 20 inch barrels with sustained fire in mind? Something tells me that last part was like, because the two questions contradict each other. So I don't know if this was like kind of baity a little bit or not. Maybe I'm just like schizoing out. But is belt kit LARP dead? It is for me. That's for sure. I just don't see the point. Like, you can still run it, dude. Like, and honestly, man, when people are like, oh, is belt kit LARP dead? It's like, it really doesn't matter as much as people think it does. Like, yeah, it matters, but like, your kit only matters so much. You know, if you can get around with all that sustainment on you, plus armor, then no, belt kit LARP is not dead by any means. I just wouldn't recommend it. But it's dead for me, man. The LFR is gonna sit in a tote forever. But is belt kit LARP dead? There's replies to that comment. I'm not even gonna read them, man. Also, why is it like when I make a Q&A, there's always like one person who feels entitled to be like, oh, I'm gonna go down the line and answer every single question for them. It's like, isn't the whole point of the fucking Q&A so you can listen to the person who asked for the Q&A to give his opinions about it? Like, what? But and to get on to the next part, and do you think everybody should start looking into running 18 to 20 inch barrels with sustained fire in mind? No. I really don't like. Well, what does the length of the barrel have to do with sustained fire, by the way? Wouldn't it be the thickness of the barrel? Wouldn't you be talking about, shouldn't people be running heavier barrels with sustained fire in mind? But no, I fucking hate 18 to 20 inch barrels. Especially now that we're using vehicles, dude. I was using my 12.5, the Op4 for that truck ambush had my 12.5, and even that bitch was like hard to get in the truck, you know, when I was like getting into it. So like, no. The shorter the barrel, pretty much the better. I'm so fucking tired of this like, oh dude, but it's trad though. It's like, but it doesn't work as well. Oh no, but it's based. I love my thick stock, bro. I've never understood the appeal of thick stocks other than, dude, it's trad, bro. Because literally, dude, like, I'm going to get in the prone, and when I get in the prone, I extend my stock. Like, I've always done that. Everyone I've seen has always done that. So why would you want a thick stock other than for some fucking persona glarp? Dude, it's so best, though. It's like, okay, bro. But no, to answer your question, no. So that's gonna answer all the questions on my first post about the Q&A, and I'm already an hour and 20 minutes into this, so I'm gonna try to knock out the next part of the questions that were asked like 2-3 months ago or whatever, and we will see how that part goes, because this is about to be a long ass video. I'm assuming that anybody who's listened this far is probably just listening to this shit at work, and good on you. So I'm gonna, on my end, I'm gonna stop the recording, and then I'm gonna start up a new recording for the next part. So all right, this is the next part. So I checked the audio as well. It's not as great as I would like it to be, but this is a new microphone, and it's I guess it's better than the phone mic, so whatever. Let's go on to the next part. All right. So First question is, if you cannot go into the woods or range and train for whatever reason, is there any skills or knowledge that you would recommend learning and developing? Of course, you don't need to have the woods or range in order to learn things, although a lot of the things that you're going to learn is going to be in the woods and on the range. But something I think is important that everybody learns is awareness. And this can be applied to your normal life, and it can be applied to training. Picking up on patterns and watching people is very important. And more specifically, understanding lines of drift. And what do I mean by lines of drift? Humans kind of behave in a way that we end up just naturally finding each other a lot of times, even if it just doesn't make any sense, right? An example for this will be like, I will go to a spot at a time of day that statistically there would nobody be there, but I still run into somebody, right? That's lines of drift. Somehow, some other person had the same idea to do what I was doing at the time I was doing it. It's kind of like when you go outside and your neighbor just also happens to be outside, or you go to check the mail and your neighbor just also happens to be checking the mail. It's kind of like stuff like that. Kind of like understanding human behavior patterns and being aware of those, you know, especially when you're doing stealthy stuff, especially when you're conducting your sills and when you're planning stuff, to keep those kind of things in mind, because those things will show up more than you would think. A lot more than you would think. There's been times where I've been like, how the fuck is somebody else out here while I'm doing this shit? You know what I mean? I've had a lot of those moments where I'm just like, why are you out here? There's no reason whatsoever why you would be here at this time. But just so happened that I ran into you both at the same time. And that's because humans have patterns in their behavior, right? And they have these lines of drift that they naturally intersect in. So keeping that in mind, that is extremely useful, and it's something I've picked up on a lot more over the years. Other than that, I think I kind of pressed on some of them earlier in the video, but there's just a lot of stuff you can learn online, you know, and you have to actually train it. Don't get me wrong. You cannot just, oh, dude, I read ATP online. You have to go out and actually exercise these skills to like get them ingrained in you. But there's so much stuff you can learn online, especially just by watching videos. So I know that's not super specific. Yeah, the main point that I did want to like drive home was picking up on just normal skills that you can apply in your everyday life, like that lines of drift stuff. You know, police officers exercise a lot of those kinds of skills, right? Picking up on human behavior. There was also, dude, this was a great fucking point that relates to this, that I actually found in like a Grand Thumb video, funnily enough, one time. I think it was like his like Seer video. And he's like, don't stare directly at people, because people somehow know that they're being watched. And I was like, dude, that's actually like really true, you know? So that's also something to keep in mind. There's just something about the human psyche that's like that. And I'm already like really interested in like psychology and some parts of neurology as well. So that shit's really interesting to me. So yeah, that's something to also keep in mind. Next question is, what kind of PC setup do you use these days? Also, do you run it in conjunction with belt kit, or have you fully embraced plate LARP? This was kind of before, again, this is like older questions, but this was before I even made my video on my AVS. So let me just go over how I'm doing things right now. So I have my war belt, and then I have my plate carrier, and then I have my assault pack, and then I have my rock. Okay. So a war belt is kind of like an in-between of a battle belt and a belt kit. It's not quite as big as a belt kit, but it's not small enough to be a battle belt. I have some sustainment, very little sustainment on the belt, but it still kind of serves the job in some kind of areas. The sustainment I kind of have in my war belt right now is just kind of like a water filter and a trowel, which is subject to change. Again, I'm still trying to messing around with this like war belt plate carrier setup thing. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I'm using that, the larger padded Novarich belt. And fuck, dude, what's the name of that channel that does all those like trophy finds. Like, dude, you probably know what I'm talking about, right? It's like Trophy something, and they do videos on like captured like Russian and like Ukrainian gear and all this stuff. And they made this whole video about belts. That's a great video. Watch that video. But those kind of belts, right? Like more padded kind of belts. I'm not necessarily shilling yet for soft armor belts because I'm kind of torn right now. Because soft armor serves a purpose. By the way, soft armor not only serves a purpose to shrapnel. Keep that in mind. It also serves a purpose to some small arms, which is likely to be faced as well in a shit hit the fan scenario. So running soft armor is not only for shrapnel for me, it's also for those other threats. But yeah, as for my ABS has changed a little bit from the video, but not a whole lot. Something I am going to be doing, and I have ordered it. It's pre-ordered though. I am getting the harness for the ABS. I originally was like, fuck it, why should I get it? Like, can't be that good. But dude, the glaze that people have given it, I'm like, all right, bro. It's like, I got it for like $155, you know, and then my other buddies were like, yeah, I kind of want to try it out too. So I was like, you know what? I'll get the harness. We'll see if I love it. If I don't love it, I'll give it to my other buddy, sell it to my other buddy, and it'll be a whole spiel. But yeah, ABS is pretty similar still. Yeah, I'm probably going to do a video at the end of the winter where I just go over everything that I used this winter, because there were some things that changed over the winter that I haven't done over the previous winters, and obviously with the integration of plate carriers and blah, 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 things are a little different than they used to be. So yeah, I'll go over my kit again at the end of the winter, and you guys will see that, so that'll be cool. How do you run your armor in conjunction with your kit and ruck? I already answered this. What's your sleep system look like? So I use it like an accordion style sleeping mat, usually as a base for the winter, and then I put my X bed, like I think it's like an R value of like 7 or 9 on top of it. And then currently I'm using a USMC bivy bag, a Kelty down 20 degree bag. I probably should have got a 0 degree bag, but like whatever, I'll do it someday. And then I have like a little Seat the Summit blow up pillow along with that as well. And then in the winter, obviously I'm sleeping with winter layers on as well. But the sleeping mat is not really something I opt for all the time in like the summer. It more so just helps my back, if I'm gonna be honest. My back gets pretty fucked up by sleeping on the ground. I've always had that problem, like my entire life. You know, my back, I do have a little bit of scoliosis in my back. Luckily, I don't quite have it as bad as other people in my family, but I do have a little bit of scoliosis. So sleeping on the ground like really fucks up my back. How do you have your ruck set up? So I'm running a U-Tactic 45+10. I think they changed the name or whatever. Same fucking shit. And then I replaced the buckles on it to be like normal 3M buckles or whatever. And then I sewed buckles onto my Herbal Stock Bandit assault pack, and then that just snaps to the very top of it. I run 2 sustainment pouches on the side of my ruck, and that's about it. As for everything I carry in my ruck, still kind of up in the air as of right now. What do you consider a good sorry, what do you consider a good fighting load of ammo for an infantryman on the modern battlefield, seeing as how these dudes in Ukraine are using 6.7 mags just for maneuver before closing with the enemy? And what are your thoughts? Okay, slow down, Buster. First off, how many mags should you be using? Fuck, I just clicked off it. Dude, I'm blowing my shit off. My life is over. So here's how I take my current combat loadout. Okay, I'm going to at least run 6+1 mags. And then I have the ability right now to plus up to, I think 10+1. or maybe even more, honestly. It depends, man. If I know that I'm gonna go into a direct assault, I would probably have like a lot of fucking ammo. Like I would probably run 10 mags if I knew that I was going into a direct assault. Other than that, just normal. It's 6+1. That's just my standard loadout. Again, staying flexible, being able to plus up if I need to. Again, I have said this before. I have pouches on my belt that are literally empty. So if I need to, I can actually, I can literally plus up to like 16 mags right now on my shit combined. I've shilled before this. I think you should have empty pouches on your kit. And that's why I use those spud pouches, because I can tailor them to a lot of things. But they are specifically set up to be empty, and then once mission changes, and this goes back to me earlier in the video saying that civilians have to get out of this. I need to predict everything that's gonna happen, because that's just not how it works, okay? For example, in the infantry, a lot of the times, at least the Army infantry, I know the Marines are like more specific about everything they fucking do, like designated machine gunner, designated rifleman, blah, 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 blah. In the Army infantry, you can be like a saw gunner, then a 320 gunner, then a 240 gunner, all within like a week. You know, especially when the casualties start piling up and you start taking other people's weapon systems. You know, and even just right before a mission, hey dude, you gotta carry the sked. Stuff like that happens all the time. So having a kit that can be tailored to things that could just get thrown at you, it's important, you know what I mean? Don't set up your kit in a way that everything is full all the time. That's my personal opinion. And in my personal opinion, I don't think I've said this before, I think you should buy a ruck that is at least like 10 to 15 liters bigger than what you originally think you need. You know, if you have a ruck and it's completely full, English is hard, I think you should get a different ruck. And I think you should get a different ruck that has 10 to 15 liters more. Because shit changes all the time, man. You need to stay ready. What are your thoughts on the new XM7 rifles? I think they're fucking garbage, but luckily I will never have to deal with those. Thank God. Dude, let's give them less ammo. Bro, let's have a rifleman with less ammo. Dude, that's fucking stupid. Like, just make it a fucking DMR, bro. Like, what are we doing? With the increase in prevalence in night vision, will we see a decrease in the usability of active aiming devices? Yep. I've talked about this before in my experience night fighting before. Night fighting is fucking terrible, dude. People like literally only ever train night fighting on a range. And I don't think people really realize that. And I think a lot of even people who stay away from the flat range don't even realize how much time that they shoot only on a range in night vision. Shooting at people in the woods, super fucking difficult. Super fucking difficult. Especially if there's like little to no like moonlight out. Dude, it's so fucking hard. So I think this whole notion of using your laser, especially in these kind of things where you have no idea where the enemy is and you're just like receiving fire, I think that's a really bad idea, in my opinion. Again, I told this story already, but I'll say it again. I was in this trench line as OP4, and we got mortared, whatever, and then they started assaulting from my left side, and they were all moving in a line, and I just popped up with my CCO, aka my aim point, and my nod on my right eye was, and dude, I would have got all of them, because they were assaulting through this like brush and shit, and they could have never fucking seen me. So I think you should try to avoid night fighting if you can. But if you are, I don't think having a laser is a great idea. That is my opinion before somebody loses their fucking mind. I'm not completely oriented towards night fighting. I'm not super like autistic about it like some people are. That is my personal opinion from my own personal experience. Okay, that was a lot of questions in one question. Next question is, how much are you looking into medical training, or I guess to what degree are you training? Also, what are you carrying in terms of first aid equipment? Definitely interested in what you have to say. Okay, so how much I'm interested in medical training it's not a lot, okay? I've done TCCC CLS like 4 or 5, maybe 6 times in my life, so I've done it quite a lot. It's something you have to train regularly, though. Like, you have to train it more than once a year, otherwise you're going to forget it. But I think me and my group are going to get more into the medical side of things once our medically trained guy has more free time. And we actually have 2 guys who are getting medically trained, but one is much further along than the other guy. So that's just, we will get into that. For my IFAC, here's everything I have in my IFAC, and then one more thing I gotta add is an eye shield, but we carry a good amount of chest seals, trauma gauze, a lot of this kind of stuff, and then of course I'm running 4 tourniquets. And I think you should run 4 tourniquets. Again, the recommended I've seen said by a combat medic who's actively in Ukraine. I'll put her ad around here. Dude, some of the best fucking medical videos I've ever seen, dude. She recommends between 4 and 6 tourniquets. So I'm running 4. And then of course I could probably throw more in my arm pockets, my shoulder pockets, or my ankle pockets, if need be. But right now I have 4 on my second line. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Next question is, what do you do for camping equipment for each season? Camping equipment or like training equipment? Camping is totally different. I rarely ever camp, to be honest. I barely have ever camped. It's bare minimum, man, usually. You know, again, I was talking about that sleeping mat, the X-Ped. I already went over my sleeping system. Only difference is that I also use a jungle bag. Is it Helicon? I think it's Helicon. I also use that. So I already pretty much went over my sleeping system though. So I think that's more so what you're kind of asking here. I also do carry a poncho. It's just more so what that poncho is going to be kind of tailored more for is setting up overhead cover now to kind of try to deter drone spotting as much from the overhead from using like surveillance drones and using it less as like a poncho shelter. Fake name asked, how has total hyperboard changed you? Bro, you don't even need to ask this question. You already know, man. You already know the dead look in my eyes. Especially when I first got back, man. Dude, I had some comments about people being like, dude, Myer, are you okay, dude? Because I just had this like fucking dead look in my eyes. I was like, no, dude, I was not okay. I was not okay. I was going through some serious fucking shit, man. Dude. 2025 was just such a fucking beatdown, bro. Damn. Shit. I'm a mama. Next question is, have you looked into things like field computers and the tech side of LARP other than just thermals and stuff such as that? Examples, drones, radios, direction. Yeah. For field computers and tech side of stuff, not so much, as that is not my expertise and I'm not going to act like that is. We do have a guy who's more interested in that kind of stuff. I'm going to kind of leave that to him. But no, I have not gotten that logistically into it. As for drones, radios, encrypted radios, we recently got encrypted radios, so that's been the main focus, and utilizing those radios and making and unfucking them and all this stuff. And of course, my contacts are like fucked, which is really lame. Thankfully, the Army gave me a pair of contacts, which I don't know if I'll have to turn in, because I didn't sign for them, and nobody has said anything about it. But I'm just gonna use those contacts, and they work fine. But my personal contacts that I bought are like won't transmit, and I'm like, bro, are you serious? This is bullshit. But they might just like turn into like Range Ear Pro or some fuck shit. So like whatever. Next question is, how do you think the future will play out in general, and what's the best way to find other people to prepare with? I already answered that second part. Social media. First part is, what do you think, how I think the future will play out? I think we're just going to keep steadily declining. I think the divide is going to keep getting worse in this country, and just in Western society And again, I don't think anything actually is going to kick off until we are robbed of our creature comforts. I think that's what's keeping a lot of people from like going fucking crazy at this point. I think the people in charge know that if they can keep the cattle entertained and focused on stupid bullshit, that they won't do anything. But you're going to get to a point where you are robbing us so badly economically, not just morally, because we're already like morally like fucked. But I think economically is going to be more so the issue that kicks it off. You know, we're getting like, it's too fucking hard for young people to live. Okay, it is too fucking hard for us to live. And I think once people, you know, lose the creature comforts of just, oh, I can just work my job and then go home and watch Netflix and drink beer and beat off, and I think and play video games. I think once people lose that, it's going to be a lot more likely for things to actually start like rolling. So yeah, obviously the world is not in a good place, and the youth are waking up, and it's inevitable. So essentially it's just like kind of just a matter of time. Not even just a matter of time that like things are gonna like implode in on itself, but just like a matter of time before the youth are so you know, extreme that something is gonna happen. Thanks, boomers. Appreciate it. And then the comment, oh, dude, it wasn't just the boomers. Yeah, obviously, dude. What do you think is the most valuable skill a warfighter should know as of 2025? Violence of action. That is the most valuable skill you can have in combat, hands down. And by violence of action, I don't mean just like shooting over your head, acting like a fucking idiot all the time. I mean like genuinely like having that spirit, like actually like laying hate. Like that is way more important than people realize. It's extremely important. This question is, how do you train outside of LARPing, in quotations, rucks, running, sprinting, lifting, etc.? I already kind of talked about it a little bit earlier with the whole like psychology, lines of drift, watching people, watching patterns, being aware of my surroundings, and not getting too schizo about it, by the way. But yeah, other than that, I still have some formal training that I'm undergoing because of the military. Yeah, lifting. I hope that answers your question. I think that's what you were asking, right? This question is, what is your local community / training group like? There's a lot to this, so I'm just gonna break it down. Essentially, I got a couple guys right now. All of them have some kind of professional training to some degree. At least my main 3 guys and then me making it 4. We all have some kind of professional background. And then basically what we're doing is we're kind of reaching out and we're training with other people where we find them. And we're, you know, sharpening that iron as we go. But yeah, that's kind of been more the priority for me lately. Is I'm stepping away from this like LARP tube toxic bullshit, and I'm kind of more trying to hone in on the real life element of it more, and then really IRL networking as it's infinitely more important. You know, I do like to try to come on here and help people, but I also realize I've realized more over the years that there's only so much I can do, and especially when there's just retards so adamant on acting like fucking morons. I think I just find a lot more happiness in just helping, you know, people who are local. You know what I mean? So it's kind of how the future is going to go for me. Obviously, I still care about my buddies around the country, and you know, I still influence them. They still influence me. But you know, the internet is just kind of like stupid. You know, like it's just kind of like dumb in itself. People online are just kind of weird. And I used to like think that was like quirky or whatever. And the older I've gotten, I've just been like, dude, like, can we talk about the socioeconomic state of the world? No, but I just kind of want to move on from that shit. Not fully, but a lot more. So, do you know a lot of people who train around you? No. Again, going back to earlier in the video, You're not just gonna, I don't, if you're not about it, you're not about it, okay? That's why I'm not gonna like try to take like a buddy from high school and be like, dude, you need to do this stuff. It's like, he doesn't want to, dude. Like, but no. Have you tried to get people you know who are maybe kind of into guns, hiking, or prepping to get more involved? I usually like don't really waste my, I kind of feel like it's a waste to waste my time if people are not already like politically and like like politically educated. If you're not politically educated already, I probably just like don't really care much about you. And you can even be politically educated, but if you really don't have the want to train, I just kind of like, okay, dude, like I'm not gonna, again, you can't force people to do things they don't want to do. Do you think the YouTube Insta is a good, yes, good way to find like-minded folks? Or are we destined to make a lot of friends who live on the other side of the country? You can make friends locally through Instagram, man. Like it's not that difficult. Especially, dude, like it's just so much easier than it used to be. Like it used to be so fucking difficult to find people, man. Like 2022, 2023, dude, it was so hard to find people who want to train. It's so much easier now. So yeah, man, you just gotta use social media and I'm sure you'll find somebody. He still might be like 3 hours away, but like you gotta take what you can get, man. Love the vids, keep it up. Thank you for that. I don't know if you still love my vids after everything that's gone on, but if you do, shout out to you. This question is so funny. I don't know why, it just makes me smile. Did you serve in the military? If so, were you on active duty or reserves? I don't like to talk about the military that much because I don't know. I feel like obviously it's important. Like obviously the government has invested tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in me, and that makes a difference. I'm never going to sit here and act like being in the military does not make a difference, because it obviously does. I don't know. I don't like to talk about a whole lot. Maybe I'll talk about it a bit more after my whole fucking deal with it is all done. But yes, I did serve as an 11 Bravo, aka an infantryman, light infantryman. I've never been mechanized. And no, I was never active duty. I mean, I was on orders. Like I'm not classified as active duty. Let me just say that. I have active duty time, but I'm not active duty. I never served in an active duty unit. I never lived in the barracks. I never had to do fucking staff duty outside of basic training. Thank God. Shit is so lame. Oh, why are you walking on the grass? Why are you walking on the grass? Dude, you're a grown man. M4 versus ARPK in different contexts is the pros and cons of both. Question is more so normal semi-automatic AR-15 versus AR-15 with an FRT, aka an LSW, aka an IAR, aka whatever the fuck you want to call it, whatever. So it's basically this. It's pretty similar to the way that it's already written in the doctrine, right? Also, can you tell that I'm getting more tired as this video is going on? It's dude, why is my timer on? It's one in the morning now, almost 1:30 in the morning. But to answer your question, being a rifleman versus being a gunner is very different. A rifleman, the advantage that he has is that he carries less ammo, and his role is different in the way that he is more flexible in a lot of ways. Riflemen are more often tasked out to different roles. You know, if you know what I'm saying, like I was saying earlier, like being given the SCED, being given the CLS bag, you know, maybe being even given like a rocket launcher or something. They can kind of be tasked out more so than the LSW gunner, which has a specific role. His specific role is to be that local support by fire. And that is his advantage. And that is an extremely important role on the battlefield. He's going to carry more ammo, and his jobs are going to be more specific in the way that he is the local support by fire. And he's not going to get tasked out to all these things like the rifleman is. Usually. Anyways, usually. Sometimes, like at fucking JRTC, we had saw gunners carrying AT4s. Like, bro, what the fuck are we doing? But whatever. Yeah, I hope that answers your question a little more. I'm sorry if it's not super in-depth answer about it, but the Rifleman is a point target system compared to the LSW, which can be a point target system actually, but it's more about that suppression. It's more about that local support by fire. So yeah. Garfield, how are you incorporating FPVs into your training, and how would you recommend LARPers carry sustain them in the field? So we haven't done a whole lot of FPV training, but like that last video I made, the one called Fake Internet Girl, that edit, you can see us training with my drone, which is not an FPV, but it's still kind of serving the same role where it's still kind of like diving in. They're still kind of doing that react to drone, running away, trying to shoot at it, things along those lines. So that's kind of the current training we're doing to involve FPVs, even if it's not an actual FPV. That's kind of what we got right now. And carry them and sustain them in the field is going to be like everything else, right? Obviously, you need a case for a drone. Like, you actually need a hard case a lot of times. I know StatTac with their thermal drone, they had this big ass case, but also like the drone is like $4,000 fucking drone. So like I totally get it. And then sustain them, more batteries. But usually, if we're talking about FPVs, you don't really need to bring extra batteries for them because FPVs serve one purpose. They're not a surveillance drone. They're gonna fly into it and they're gonna, because there's no real recovering an FPV with a payload on it. This guy asked, what's your current rifle build? I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know. Some things have changed since, fuck. Let me try to go over it just from my memory, and it's sitting right there. But let me try to go over it. Lower is an arrow lower. The trigger is, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the trigger, but it's like, it's a nicer trigger. I used to be using a shittier trigger, like I think it was like called QMS or whatever. It's kind of like it was a mil-spec trigger. I'm not using a mil-spec trigger anymore. That fucking blows. JP silent capture spring in it. I have in my pistol grip, I have a thing of CLP, which is actually really convenient. And then my upper is an M4E1 arrow upper. I'm using an ACOG with a thing at 9.0 cram ACOG spacer. The ACOG is a Primary Arms Aurora reticle that is no longer available. I have a Geisley handguard. I have a Sharp XPB bolt carrier group. I'll either be using my supercharging handle, my Geisley supercharging handle, or I'll be using my, I think it's called a Razor. Gosh, dude, it's like such a mainstream one, I don't even know the name of it. I don't have my kill flash on my ACOG currently. I don't know if I'll put it back on. Maybe I should. But I'm kind of switching the ACOG and the PF 640 plus V2, aka RH25 thermal out. Just kind of experimenting with it. I don't want to say Falcon. What is the name of it? It's like super popular, bro. I used to have like a hoodie with the name of it too. Pencil barrel. Faxon, that's what it is, Faxon. Dude, I'm so out of touch about gun parts. I have a pencil Faxon barrel on it. And then I'm running a Surefire Scout 1200 lumen flashlight on it. And yeah, that's what I got. And then I got a T-Rex arm sling. So yeah, I'm surprised I got it that much off the top of my head, honestly, to be completely real with you. I didn't even think I could get that much. Okay, next question. What's your favorite? Dude, this is how tired I am. What's your favorite? Yeah, what's my favorite? What's your favorite weekly exercise routine? I'm honestly a bit retarded when it comes to working out. I pretty much just only hit machines and do like arms, back, and then legs. But I'm getting better at it. And I don't know, it works okay. And then next question is, how much weight do you ruck and for how far? If you're gonna, when you ruck, like for fitness, the usual rule is that you're supposed to do 35 pounds dry, which means your ruck should weigh 35 pounds without water. So like without putting your camel back on it, so you can still hydrate while you're doing it, it should weigh 35 pounds. That's the normal rule. So yeah. Oh my gosh, have you played Among Us since your last Q&A? No, dude. I still have not played Among Us, man. I don't know. Dude, video games are so hard for me sometimes. I really struggle to like get into video games like I used to. Cause like I spent like from ages like, dude, maybe in like 11 to like 16 nonstop gaming. Just like my entire fucking life. I'm ranked like 380 something in GTA Online. I have like almost like a year worth of time in that fucking game, man. And like, I don't know, something changed one day and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something with my life. And that was about the same time I got my first 5.56 AR-15. And ever since then, I just have not been as much of a gamer as I used to be. But I should play games more, even if it's just to like distract myself from like the menial nothingness of modern existence. Next question is, what's your opinion about non-uniform guerrillas? Granted, do I believe that guerrilla need to have some uniforms? Yes. But do I think that having a uniform also makes you stand out? Yes. I'm just wondering what your philosophy behind this is. Depending on what you're doing is going to depend on the uniform. So it's meant to see dependent. I fucking hate saying that, but it is. If you're trying to do gray man, it's going to be different. Like, I feel like if you're doing gray man, you should kind of dress like how like an ICE agent dresses, just without the vest, because that's like good plain clothes look. And then for like uniformity, dude, uniformity is so overrated. It's literally so overrated. Is it cool? Yeah, sure, whatever. But like, when people are like, dude, we all have to wear M81, or dude, we all have to wear this, wear that. It's like, this doesn't matter when it comes to IFF at all. That's the only reason uniformity matters, in my opinion, is because of IFF, identify friend or foe. And even like when Tier Wannabe went to GSG event, the one where he was like doing all the trench stuff, he even said that dude's like, it's even like hard to see the tape. And that's the form of IFF I kind of shill for more so than anything is tape. And even he's like, yeah, dude, it's even hard to see the tape. Like trying to make out a camouflage pattern for IFF is just like literally not gonna work. So that's my opinion on it. Next question, is there a meta to countering drones? Shotguns seem to be like a hit or miss, literally. Jammers seem bulky and expensive, and you can't. Was that supposed to be exactly? Don't tell me that's a word and I just don't fucking know it. Stay out of sight with a dome of chicken wire around your positions. To me, it seems like obscure trenches and dugouts are your best bet. Also, if you have one kitty and two more kitties, does that add up to joy and happiness? Thank you. Yes, for the last part. But let's answer the question. Is there a meta? Not really. The meta is to not get seen by the drone, which is hard. And if you do try to shoot at it, it's going to be difficult. But yeah, shotguns are kind of hit or miss still. And honestly, again, I talked to my buddy in Ukraine, and he's like, yeah, shotguns are good for like defensive positions and in trucks, but like you're not going to like carry them on a movement. Like there's no real point. So that kind of answers that. So yeah, pretty much staying hidden and in trenches and dugouts is your best bet. You answered it right there. Next question is, do you implement some kind of covert low-vis tactics? Personally, I do not. Maybe someday I will, but I don't know. Chief called. No, I don't. Any advice for aspiring? Dude, my like speech is getting so fucked up the later it gets. Any advice for an aspiring LARPer? Also love the content, brother. Keep it up. The best advice I can give you is to do things that make you better. And I know that's like super vague, but it's like, especially with the whole like drama or whatever, fuck all that noise. Fuck all these people and all this nonsense they're talking about. Become lethal. That is what's important. Becoming lethal. That is what's going to matter. All these words, all this noise doesn't mean shit in contrast to how lethal you can be and what being lethal means. Become proficient, become smart, get your head in the game, care about these things and know why you're doing them. Have a belief system behind what you're doing. And I hope it's the right belief system. This is not I hate this hobbyist bullshit, dude. You should be doing this because you fucking believe in something. If you're not doing this because you believe in something, you are a fucking, you're just cattle, pretty much. Oh, dude, I fucking hate when people like don't do this for any reason and they're like, oh, I do it because I missed the army, I missed the Marines. It's like, dude, you are just as much of a tool now as you were then. Damn. Oh, what's your favorite camo? Said it before, bro. Con camo, man. Con camo is the GOAT. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT. Rhode Island Aboriginal asks, what type of content would you like to see more of from our corner of the internet? I'm trying to pull back on the edits and make more informative videos, just not quite certain how to do it well yet. Thank you and God bless. Yeah, I want more informative stuff, and I want more raw footage, and I want more kind of stat tac kind of content. And that's why I'm moving towards it and moving away from the edits largely. I still like making edits. They're still fun, but I've kind of realized that I'm putting all this time into making these edits. I'm spending upwards of 10 hours on an edit just to get a bunch of sloppy comments. Oh, dude! And I don't want to do it anymore. It's like super demoralizing and like a waste of time. I do agree that we should be making more informative content, but here's my thing. You have to have the experience and the time in the field and have questioned it and done it long enough to be making informative content about it. This is my thing. This is why I didn't like Dirty Civilian, is because these videos are not thought out well enough. These people, this is not enough experience backing up what these people are saying, you know? And then that's why I don't like it. If I'm gonna make a fucking informative video, if I'm gonna make an educational video, it's gonna be an educational video. It's gonna say something that's worth fucking saying, rather than just bullshit. You know, bullshit you can read off a fucking PowerPoint. I just think that if you're gonna be making informative content, you should know actually what you're talking about, and you should have did it a lot. That's why I made that patrol bases video, because my entire time in the light infantry, that is all I've fucking done, is patrol bases. So I think it was very much warranted that I made a video about patrol bases and talking about how fucking stupid his takes were. Oh, dude, two guys can both pull 180-degree security. Brother, what? Like, that's why I made that video, man, because it's just like, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. If you're going to make an informative video, make sure you know what you're talking about. Make sure you've done this stuff before and you've done the hiccups of it, and you actually have the time in the field to talk about it. Rather than, oh, no, I've done this 2 times. I've done this 3 times. I know what I'm doing. It's like, you don't, though. You probably don't. Make sure you know the ins and outs of it before you make a fucking video about it. That's why I haven't done a video talking specifically about how to do a deliberate ambush yet, because it's something I need to get better at. Because in my time in the infantry, we haven't done a whole lot of ambushes. I've done a lot of react to contact. I've done a lot of bounding. I've done a lot, and I haven't done much break contact, but break contact is a pretty easy drill, and that's why the video on it. But these are all the videos that I've made stuff about. I've really made sure I was confident about what I was talking about before I put out the video. Because I want the shit that I put out, I want this informative content to actually have substance to it. You know, I don't want this Dirty Civilian gun tube bullshit. I want real substance to my fucking videos. I want to try to talk about this thing as in depth, maybe not as in depth, but as thorough in a practical way as much as I can. So, next comment is educational resources for building and modifying drones. Not my specialty, brother. Not gonna lie. Where would you even find resources about that? Oh my gosh. What's his name? Oh my gosh, one of Ozark's guys. Oh shit, I'll put his ad up there. Dude, follow that guy. That guy is like the most educated civilian I know right now talking about drones. So that guy is a good resource. Next question, thoughts on LARP mindset for politics? The American Revolution is a case study of successful revolution of which an extremely crucial component was a pre-existing parallel political system. In quotations, war is a continuation of politics by other means of the True! LARP mindset for politics, I mean, if your politics are not militant enough, to already be going alongside LARPing, I kind of question your politics to begin with. I think if your politics aren't already complementing training, LARPing, whatever, I kind of question your politics. I don't know if you really need a LARP mindset. I think it's just kind of being militant. I think a lot of ideology just is inherently militant. What is the end goal of all this? Do you see yourself doing this in a decade, possibly mentoring new entries? The purpose of this is to arm and make proficient as many young, like-minded men as possible. That is the point. You know, it's to influence men who have had their, you know, their futures robbed from them to be prepared. You know, young men just like myself who feel abandoned, who feel like, you know, our country doesn't care about us. Our culture doesn't care about us. You know, we get to watch all these old people, you know, have the time of their lives in a society that's dying that they don't have to deal with anymore. And we have to sit here and then know that our futures are like fucked, you know? And I think that every young man that comes to consciousness about this and arms himself is just another pro, you know? I think that's good. I think the more people who believe the things that I believe, that are armed and are proficient, the better. That's basically it, man. I'm a Zoomer. This is my story. It's kind of how it is, bro. Civilizations go through this, you know. Weak men create hard times, and now we're living those hard times. And now we got to become strong men to create good times. The way of life. The way of life in this fallen world. The way of life outside of the garden. The way of life with inherent sin. Anyways. A couple questions. Do you still carry the Boo Boo kit? If so, have you made any changes or additions? No, I don't. I probably should to some degree. Again, once our medical guy is more like free up because he's still like super busy with shit, we'll probably have that discussion about little things that we can carry on our kits, just like combat like scratches and stings and burns and all this stuff. But that's not really what we're doing right now. Next question is, from your experience, how would you compare and contrast your philosophy of kit to Cytoxel and an Appeal to Heaven in specific? The three of you have very distinct kit doctrines separate from each other. I'm going to try to answer this to the best of my ability, but I don't truly know everything about them. When it comes to Cytoxel, his kit is still very LRP minded, and it's still very kind of logistically minded in the sense of having your logistics on your person. And that makes sense because he's a more logistically tailored individual, especially with his past and the things that he did while he was in. I mean, it makes a lot of sense why he's involved in the things that he is logistically. And I think that's great. I think he should train those logistics. I don't think they're necessarily directly compatible with the kind of stuff that I'm talking about when I'm talking about combat. But I don't think they're bad things to train. I just don't really understand the still keeping the LRP mindset of I'm just gonna like run away into the woods though. I still don't really understand what that's accomplishing. You know what I mean? Again, surviving early stage, that's fine or whatever. Also the lone wolf stuff, I don't really believe in that anymore. You know, I don't think being a lone wolf accomplishes anything. You know, you have a cause that you're supposed to be, you know, being with. You have people that you're supposed to be being with. And instead of that, you're all by yourself, just fending for yourself in the middle of nowhere. And I just personally don't really understand that. I don't know what that's really supposed to accomplish at the end of the day. I don't know. I also don't understand kind of the stuff that he does with his rifle, to be honest. I don't understand why he's still running a carry handle, for one thing. Like, I understood why he ran it more so when he was in, in Florida, because, like, the fogginess. And then when he went to Pennsylvania, he was still running, and I was like, okay. And now that he's back in the mountains, I'm like, I just don't really understand the point of still copying yourself out of magnification, especially when you're in the mountains. Especially when he knows he needs magnification, because he was using his monocular in that one video. So I don't really personally understand that. I don't really understand why you would specifically choose to not use magnification. I don't really understand that, especially in the mountains. But whatever. As for an appeal to heaven, he doesn't upload anymore, so I can barely tell what he's doing. But last time I checked, he was trying to mix a plate carrier into his kit, but I just didn't really understand exactly what he was trying to get. I watched his Appalachian Conquest kit breakdown video, and again, some of the stuff just didn't make a lot of sense. Specifically talking about how he was going to be a squad leader IAR gunner without an FRT. That didn't make any sense to me. He was carrying all this extra ammo and talking about being an IAR gunner, and then he doesn't even have an FRT. So you're not an IAR gunner. Along with that, him running a plate carrier but still running a bump helmet, that doesn't make any sense. And then he commented something on one of his posts about him running a groin pad or whatever. And I was just like, then why aren't you running soft armor cummerbund too? And I kind of talked about it in my 1.0 breakdown videos that if you're not running soft armor on your sides, then why are you running it on your front? You gotta think about why you do things. I don't know. I don't really know everything he's doing, but that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, to be fair. And then Appalachian Conquest didn't even happen, and I was like, okay. But yeah, I don't really know what he's up to be real. I know they still train, but seems like he just kind of turned more towards kind of flat range stuff and just practicing shooting again, which is whatever. But yeah, I don't really know where his kit's at anymore, because he was running a plate carrier, but then he was still running his Smersh the same. And I was like, okay, so are you, well, what is it? What are you really tailoring your kit for here? I was kind of confused about that. Whatever. Next question. How has your Eastwick's cold weather bag changed from the old 3-layer kit breakdown video? Cold weather bag? Are you talking about my gloves? Or did I don't think I made a... Are you talking about the... Oh, never mind. I know what you're talking about. Sorry. It's changed in the way that I don't really like running Eastwick's the way it's meant to be ran. I don't think, oh, dude, you gotta plus up one layer and then another layer, another layer, another layer. If I'm cold enough, I'm just gonna throw the fucking marshmallow jacket on. Okay? Usually how it's gonna go is I'm gonna wear my silk top underneath, and then I've been running my combat top over that, but I don't always have to do that, but it's probably more so recommended. And then if I'm cold enough after that, I'm gonna throw my fleece top on, and if I'm even more cold, I might just throw my marshmallow top on top of it. But this whole oh, you have to silk, then waffle, then fleece, then level 7, then the wet weather top, then marshmallow. I'm not doing all that. Okay, everybody's different. Don't get me wrong; it's different for each individual's body. But I think you should just run your E-Swix how you think it's comfortable, to be completely real. I don't think it has to be this whole fucking math equation. Just run it how it feels comfortable. Trying to. That was not a because the next question, by the way. I'm just tired as shit. Next question is, part of the question is, what dry bags did you eventually use to replace the ones you marked not liking very much in that video? So the dry bags I'm using are Seat the Summit ones and a Marine Corps one. So, but I still use those like little Walmart ones for when I have little things to put in it. But usually I'm not doing all that anymore. I'm just gonna shove it all in a bigger dry bag, to be real. Also, I love the smiley face and the thanks. It's the little things. Sorry, like it like makes my like autism brain just like smile. This question is so good. Oh my gosh, this question's so good. Do you still have fun doing this? Yeah, I have fun getting better. I have fun when I get better. I have fun when I have new experiences. I don't have fun doing things that I've already done and I see no purpose in doing. To answer your question. Question is methods of sustainment carrying armor. I already went over that. The whole war belt, plate carrier, then assault pack, then ruck plus assault pack. That's the system. How much armor is too much armor? IMO, helmet plus plate carrier plus dick flap plus sitting pad plus collar is the max. Delta armor, thigh armor seems overkill, but I'm all ears. Personally, I think I wouldn't do more than plates, cummerbund, groin, and if I was in a defensive position, neck armor. And then belt armor still on the table, but I'm iffy about that. I think anything more than that is like way too fucking much. But it's meant to see dependent, you know? If I'm gonna be if my only job is to sit in a fucking hole, it's gonna be different. Maybe I will go delta armor then. I ain't even got a question. Gonna tune in for this one in a cruiser top with no draws on, straight Myer in my flyer. That's what's up. That's what's up. Type shit on my mama. On Foy Dem grave. On Foy Dem grave. What's your end goal with LARPing? To inspire people and to become a beast myself, and to be proficient and good and do well. Specifically, do well at like events, like being able to be a good team leader at some point, and maybe even a squad leader at some point. That's like up there. My basic soldiering skills are pretty much done. I'm just trying to get into like leadership kind of stuff, utilizing radios, using force multipliers, thermal drones. You've already heard it a million fucking times. And then the next part of the comment is tying a rope between two trees and filming yourself crawling on it. Dude, what do you mean that's tough? Next question. How are the Noverse pants holding up? Great. Great. Have had no previous problems since last time. What I am doing though now is I'm taking the knee pad insert and I'm just putting the fabric over it. I'm not having it hanging out anymore. It just falls out every single fucking time. And by the time that fabric gets like fucked up enough, I'm probably just gonna need new pants anyways. So it's not a huge deal. Thoughts on undergarments and hygiene in the field. Wear non-polyester underwear that doesn't have an elastic waistband on it so it doesn't chafe the shit out of you. And hygiene is take a wet wipe to yourself when you get too nasty. And honestly, sometimes I just literally don't do that. depending on how long it's, I ain't doing all that. But yeah, brush my teeth, wipe my ass to the best of my ability. But yeah, that's the main thing. And feet. Try to keep my feet good. Pre-powder your socks for extended field ops. Carry an extra pair of insoles to switch out when your boots get soaked. Have appropriate boots for the appropriate environment. If you're in some place where you know you're going to be going through fucking water, sloshy water, swampiness all the time, get swamp boots. Other than that, I think you should wear Gore-Tex boots the other 3 seasons of the year, and then the winter you should have insulated waterproof boots, which I've recently gotten, which are goated. Clad asked, are you going to do more drill concept videos? Absolutely. Again, I just want to make those correctly. I want to make them thorough and practical. What are we going to do about the new thermal technology upcoming? You're going to hide, homie. You're going to hide. And you're going to try to combat it with your own thermal technology. And I don't know how cope these like thermal ponchos are. Maybe they could become something, but even then your face is still sticking out. But again, thermal's not a cheat code, but it's definitely like something to worry about, especially at night, man. That shit deadly as fuck at night. It's already deadly. It's even more deadly at night. Will there ever be another Discord or Telegram? No! How do I find a woman that isn't on birth control and hates everything? Brother, prayer, brother, prayer. Fake name asked, are you gonna start rocking anti-thermal drone umbrella? Next question. Oh, when you think gun tubers will start shilling $100,000 exosuits instead of just rucking and having strength? When BlackRock buys them out, which will probably be pretty soon. So, next question. Hello. Brother, dude, I'm losing it, man. The more tired I get, it's 2 a.m. It just hit 2 a.m. Dude, I'm losing it. All right. Next question. Hello. What's up? What's up? What's up, Patrick? What's up, Patrick Taylor? What's up? What's up, homie? What's good? What's good, my G? Yeah, okay. I couldn't really think of any questions that you haven't already answered in one of your videos. However, the 2 questions that I have that I can still think are, would you recommend Under Armour, in quotations, tops, shirts and undergarments, and boots? That's a great question. So, would I recommend it? You know what, I actually would. But what do you mean? But what do you mean? Do you mean like a normal undershirt, or do you mean like their thermal layers? I do have their thermal layers. I think they fucking suck, but I'm also not a big thermal layer guy. But yeah, I literally run something pretty similar. It's just literally the issued silk top is what it's called, and it's literally just like kind of that like polyester undershirt, long sleeve, and I run that. And then the next question is just the same thing. Is a compression style shirt good for underneath the combat shirt or even a fielded shirt? Yeah, that's how I do it. I run that silk top underneath my combat top. And I even like, I've had a first sergeant who like literally only did that. Like he never wore a field top in the field. He only wore the combat top. And then he wore silks or he wore his waffles underneath it. That was it. So yeah, totally work. Next question. How has your faith and personal relationship with God changed since the last Q&As? I'm going to be real. I feel like it hasn't been the best. I don't know. I feel like after 2025, I feel like 2025 was such a beatdown, and I've kind of had like a why God moment about it. But at the same time, I realized that this is not really my life. You know, ultimately, I was sent here on this earth, and I am ultimately a child of God. So my life is not really mine. And if he wants to put me through tribulations or, you know, whatever, let things happen to me, you know, that's completely up to him, because he's infinitely smarter than me. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like that hasn't also made me maybe a bit resentful. You know, and that is probably immature and childish. I will not lie, but it's how I feel. So yeah, I hope it gets better, and I'm working on it more. It's just kind of hard to bounce back sometimes. And when you become so demoralized, you kind of just start questioning like why things are allowed to happen, you know. And obviously that's probably immature, but it is my own human emotion. None of this to say that I think that I'm better than his judgment, obviously, but Jesus is still God, and I know he still loves me, and I know things are going to be okay. Just a bit tired of the beatings, not gonna lie. Next question is it retarded to join the National Guard? I've been looking at 15 Whiskey TUS operator. Here's my thing about joining the military, man. I'm going to tell you what my recruiter told me and what I tell everybody else. Unless your heart is totally in it, don't do it. All right. Obviously, things are getting worse, you know, and you don't even, and you're going guard for like a super pogue job. So like, there's not a whole lot of honor in that, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. So, yeah, man, I'm not going to tell you yes or no. If you really want to do that with your life, if you feel like you're going to regret not doing it, then you should, you know, if you think that you're going to regret not doing it and you feel like your heart is totally in it, then do it. But that's completely up to you, man. The military is a fucking beatdown. Less or so for you, because you're going to be a pogue if you do join, but it's still like a beatdown, and I wouldn't undo what I did, but I can't imagine fucking redoing it at this point. I just can't do another contract of this bullshit. It just gets more fucking stupid every year. Like, it just gets more fucking nonsense every year. And the leadership just keeps getting more out of touch and more fucking, oh no, let's do all this bullshit because you gotta keep troops motivated. I'm getting out. Do you think you'll have, I think I might know this guy. Do you think you'll continue the How to LARP style series? Also, hi. I was actually just talking to this guy before this. Yeah, I'll continue the how to like LARP stuff. I actually have like a big video planned instead though, and it's gonna like have everything involved in it. And I thought about breaking it up into a bunch of different little videos, but I want the long format of the video to weed out the idiots. So yeah, I have a document I've been drawing up for a little while that I'm just gonna cover all this shit in and make it one big mega video, kind of like this. Yeah. What's your favorite meal in the field that isn't MREs or freeze-dried slop? I've been packing a little doggy bag with salami, meat, Parmesan in my rucket lately. Honestly, the freeze-dried stuff is the best, to be completely honest. I fucking hate eating shit in the field. I only eat it because I have to. I'm a very picky eater. I don't eat my green beans. I'm gonna eat my green beans, dude. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, how do you think, if at all, small bunkers or even tunnel systems are going to be used more civilian context stateside? It's probably going to just be a place to seek cover and for like civilians and families and stuff. How has thermal changed the game for you? Are you utilizing yours to the fullest? Plus, how are you countering it? It's changed the game for me, but I already, not a whole lot though, because I already have experience with thermal because of being a 240 gunner. But yeah, it's a significant force multiplier, especially for scanning and recon purposes. Dude, super significant. Sorry this is long-winded, but what is your opinion on the Minutemen Green Beret concept that instead of just training to be a small group of guys that can fight, the Minutemen group should both train to fight themselves, but to also develop plans and procedures so that if something ever happened to them, your team could train large groups of people into a militia from the town that you reside in or other towns around you. Also, things like building out logistics plans, not just for you and your family, but develop networks that could support your entire town if need be. I would love to hear your opinion on this concept and whether you think that should be a standard or if that is reaching the point of being too lofty of a goal. That is quite a fucking goal, bro. I think that you can network. I think that you can make a proficient group of dudes. But everything, like everything else, the smaller the size, usually the more lethality. The better it is. Like look at special forces, you know. Small group of dudes, but super fucking lethal. The more about it you are, the smaller the group usually becomes. But I like this question. It's just like, this is a lot of logistics. This is a lot of logistics. I think this would be more so doable once things actually start kicking off. Incel core, gas or trash? Is this even a fucking question, bro? With how much jazz I listen to, bro. Oh, dude, you're a new jet. I don't fucking care, bro. I'm gonna listen to the music because it sounds good. You know why I listen to music? Because it sounds good. And the last question, are you a Sevnat? No. Anyways, so that is all of my questions. And this is probably going to be, if I think this is already 2.5 hours long. But might be bordering almost 3 hours. I just want to thank you all for listening to this. And everybody who got this far, which is probably not very many. And you're probably all at work. And you're probably all just listening to this as background noise, which is totally fine, don't get me wrong. Or like kind of like podcasty stuff. Don't get me wrong, totally cool. Or you've been watching this video sporadically throughout days and all that. You may never finish this video, which is it's whatever. I'm just thankful that you got this far. I make these videos because I really do enjoy Q&As. I really do like sitting down and answering questions. I feel like I've done a lot. I've been through a lot. And I love giving my insight about things. Especially as I'm trying to move more towards less from the whole LARP culture, toxic, stupid shit, to the more educational side of things. And really making this about being lethal and proficient. And really getting your head in the game about it, and hopefully helping out a significant amount of people in the process. Hopefully, but again, smaller sample size, usually greater lethality. But yeah, man, hope you guys enjoyed. This is all everything that goes around in my autistic brain. These are all the weird thoughts in my brain that I think about all fucking day. So yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll make another Q&A someday, but dude, this was long as hell and big, and it's gonna take a little while to edit. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching so much. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart. I hope all of you guys are doing great, and I hope you all have great relationships with the Lord. I know I said I'm struggling in that video, but I will get better myself. I'm sure of that. But thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you around. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.